Ladies and gentlemen, welcome to Classic Hollywood TV. As we sit here in the year 2026, the world around us has changed in ways the creators of the mid-20th century could scarcely have imagined. We live in an era of hyperconnectivity and digital noise, yet there is a certain frequency, a specific melodic resonance, that still manages to pierce through the modern static. It is a sound that brings with it the smell of old upholstery, the sight of vibrant, clashing patterns, and the feeling of a sun-drenched afternoon in a simpler America. It is the sound of a family that didn't just live together, but sang together, creating a tapestry of harmony that defined the television landscape of the 1970s. Tonight, we are taking a journey back to that golden era, but we are viewing it through the lens of the present day. The Partridge Family was, for many, the ultimate expression of television sunshine. It presented a world where every conflict could be resolved by the time the final chorus hit, where a multicolored bus was a vessel for dreams, and where the bond of family was the strongest force in the universe. But as we look back from the vantage point of 2026, we realize that while the episodes remain frozen in the amber of syndication, the people behind those characters have lived entire lifetimes in the shadows and the light that followed. The story we are about to tell is one of incredible highs and poignant, quiet exits. It is a story about the transition from the black and white grace of old Hollywood into the neon-soaked phenomenon of teen superstardom. Behind the catchy tunes and the bright smiles, there were real lives being navigated through the unique pressures of global adoration and the eventual, inevitable fading of the spotlight. In 2026, some of these familiar faces are still with us, acting as living bridges to our collective childhoods, while others have already taken their final bow, leaving behind a legacy that is now measured in memories rather than Nielsen ratings. We often talk about the Partridge Family as a single unit, a collective of voices that blended perfectly. But to truly understand why this show still lingers in the hearts of millions, we must look at the individual threads of that tapestry. We must look at the steady hands that guided the bus, the restless spirits that gave the music its heartbeat, and the quiet observers who found their own paths long after the cameras stopped rolling. This evening, we revisit the cast, then and now, exploring the journey from the first note of the theme song to the reflections we hold today. As we begin this deep dive, we invite you to settle in and let the nostalgia wash over you. The bus is fueled, the instruments are tuned, and the story is much deeper than the lyrics of a 3-minute pop song might suggest. We are not just looking at a sitcom. We are looking at a snapshot of a time when the world felt a little more melodic, and we are asking what happens to that melody when the decades start to stack up. The journey begins with the center of the storm, the figure who ensured the music never lost its heart, even when the road ahead was uncertain. Stay with us as we uncover the legacy of the family that made the whole world want to sing along. At the very heart of this musical odyssey stood a woman who represented the bridge between the silver screen's golden age and the rapidly evolving landscape of the 1970s. Shirley Jones was not just playing a role when she stepped onto that iconic set. She was bringing a level of prestige and seasoned professionalism that few sitcoms of the era could boast. Born on March 31st, 1934, she had already conquered the world of cinema, but at the age of 36, she took on the mantle of Shirley Partridge. She became the calm, steady center of a whirlwind, the mother who could hold the music and the chaos together without ever letting the warmth in her eyes flicker. When we watch her now from the vantage point of 2026, there is a profound sense of grace that radiates from the screen. She didn't rely on grand theatrical gestures or loud proclamations to command a scene. Instead, she mastered the art of the meaningful pause, the gentle correction, and the look of unconditional love that made the Partridge household feel like a place where anyone would be welcome. Shirley Jones anchored the entire ensemble, providing a safe harbor that allowed the younger stars to shine. Today, at 92 years old, she remains a symbol of a softer, more earnest era of television, a time when maternal warmth wasn't just a plot point, but the very foundation upon which a legend was built. However, as the sun shone brightly on the Partridge home, a different kind of energy was beginning to boil over, centered around the family's eldest son. If Shirley Jones was the anchor, then Keith Partridge was the sails, catching a cultural wind that would soon turn into a hurricane. David Cassidy was only 20 years old when he was cast as Keith, but he possessed a magnetic charisma and a natural musicality that transcended the script. He wasn't just a character with a guitar, he became a global phenomenon, a face that launched 1,000 magazine covers and a voice that felt like it was singing directly into the heart of every viewer. His performance was vital because he brought a sense of restless, authentic youthfulness to the show. Keith Partridge felt alive, vibrant, and filled with a glowing possibility that resonated with a generation looking for a hero they could call their own. But the bright lights of the stage often cast the longest and darkest shadows. David Cassidy's journey beyond the show was one of immense complexity, marked by the heavy, often crushing cost of global adoration. The loss we felt on November 21, 2017, when he passed away at the age of 67 due to liver failure, still echoes through the years. Watching him today in those vintage clips is a bittersweet experience. It is a glimpse of youth frozen in time. A young man smiling and singing with the world at his feet, even as we carry the knowledge of the heavy road he would eventually have to walk, while Keith provided the heartthrob energy. The show required a different kind of spark to keep its momentum, a source of friction and humor that could balance the sweetness of the melodies. This spark came in the form of Danny Partridge, the middle son, with the sharpest wit and the quickest tongue in the house. Danny Bonaduce was just 11 years old when he took on the role, and he possessed a comedic timing that was far beyond his years. He was the master of the fast joke and the elaborate scheme, the one who ensured that the family bus never felt too perfect or too sanitized. His constant back and forth with the family manager, Reuben Kincaid, became one of the essential rhythms of the series, a comedic dance that represented the eternal struggle of youth trying to outmaneuver the adult world. Danny was the mischievous soul of the Partridges, the one who kept the dream from feeling static. His life, after the cameras stopped rolling, became a very public narrative of the challenges inherent in growing up under the relentless scrutiny of the limelight. Yet there is a resilience to his story that is truly remarkable. He managed to reinvent himself, turning his quick wit and outspoken personality into a long and successful career in broadcasting. In 2026, at 67 years old, rewatching his younger self is a reminder of a bright, restless energy that refused to be extinguished. He was the kid who always had a plan, and in the real world, he found a way to keep that spark lit, navigating the highs and lows of fame with a tenacity that mirrors the character he once played. As we peel back the layers of this story, we begin to see that the Partridge Family was more than just a collection of actors in costumes. It was a delicate ecosystem of personalities, each playing a vital role in maintaining the harmony. The transition from the seasoned elegance of Shirley Jones, the explosive stardom of David Cassidy, and finally to the sharp-witted resilience of Danny Bonaduce, creates a narrative arc that is as much about the human condition as it is about television production. The tension between the fantasy of the show and the reality of the performers' lives adds a layer of depth that keeps the series relevant even decades later. We are seeing the beginning of a larger revelation, a look at how these individuals were shaped by the bus they rode and the songs they sang. The details are starting to emerge, and the tension is building as we realize that the sunshine of the show was often earned through the hard work and personal sacrifices of those who lived it. The story of the Partridges is a story of contrasts, of the quiet authority of a mother, the overwhelming burden of a teen idol, and the mischievous survival of a child star. Each of them contributed a unique note to a song that the world still hasn't forgotten. But the family was larger than just these three, and as we move forward, we will find that even the quietest members of the band held a significance that was essential to the whole. The atmosphere is set, the intrigue is deepening, and the true essence of what made this family a household name is about to be revealed in full. We are just beginning to understand the weight of the legacy they left behind on those winding roads and in those crowded concert halls. The next chapter of our journey will take us into the heart of the ensemble, where the true meaning of the Partridge harmony is found in the lives of those who stayed in the shadows and those who chose a different path entirely. As we move deeper into the history of the most famous musical bus in television history, we reach the point where the true essence of the Partridge Family is revealed. While the stars often drew the most attention, the show's enduring magic relied on the delicate balance of its ensemble, the smaller voices that provided the texture of a real home. It is here, in the supporting roles, that we find the heart of why this series remains so important to the fabric of our culture in 2026. A family is not just made of its leaders. It is built on the quiet presence of those who fill the gaps between the solos. Among these essential figures was Tracy Partridge, the youngest daughter who rarely sought the spotlight but whose presence was fundamental to the show's warmth. Suzanne Craft was only 7 years old when she stepped into the role of Tracy, tambourine in hand and innocence in her eyes. She represented the stillness that balanced the household's frequent chaos. Without Tracy, the Partridges might have felt like a manufactured act, but with her, they became a true family. After the series concluded, Craft made a choice that now feels both wise and deeply poignant. She stepped away from the glare of Hollywood to pursue a quieter, more private life. This decision preserved her in the public imagination as a child forever associated with the comfort of television. Her passing on April 27, 2015, at the age of 52 due to a rare heart condition, brought a wave of silent grief to fans who realized that a piece of their childhood innocence had slipped away far too soon. Watching her scenes today is like looking at a childhood preserved in amber, a reminder of a life that was lived with a gentle dignity away from the cameras. If Tracy was the quiet balance, then Reuben Kincaid was the vital structure that kept the entire operation from veering off the road. Dave Madden was 39 when he took on the role of the long-suffering manager who tried to navigate the unpredictable world of the music business while keeping 5 children and their mother in some semblance of order. Madden brought a masterful gift for comedic exasperation infused with a genuine heart. His legendary back and forth with Danny Bonaduce became a cornerstone of the show's rhythm, a collision of 2 vastly different personalities that somehow forged a unique, unconventional family bond. Reuben was the adult behind the curtain, the one who handled the logistics and the contracts so the music could keep playing. Beyond the series, Dave Madden was a model of professional reliability, a character actor who understood that his job was to ground the fantasy in a relatable reality. He continued to work steadily across the television landscape until his passing on January 16, 2014, at the age of 82. In 2026, rewatching his performance reveals just how much he contributed to the show's credibility. He wasn't just a manager, he was the anchor of reality in a world of pop-colored dreams. The man who reminded us that even the most beautiful music needs a steady hand to guide it. The rhythm of the family was further sustained by the steady beat of the drums, a role that saw a rare and seamless transition during the show's run. In the beginning, there was Jeremy Gelbwax, who at the age of 9 brought a quiet atmosphere to the first season as the original Chris Partridge. Though his time was brief before his family relocated and he left the acting world behind, he remains a vital part of the show's earliest innocence, a snapshot of the very first days of the Partridge phenomenon. When the role was recast, Brian Forster stepped in at age 11, navigating the difficult task of joining an established family dynamic with a quiet, easy grace. Forster's performance was essential because it proved that the Partridge Family was an idea that could transcend individual changes. He blended into the rhythm so naturally that the show never skipped a beat. Interestingly, both men who played Chris chose paths far removed from the studio lights. Gelbwax found his calling in the worlds of technology and academics, while Forster pursued a passion for professional auto racing. This shift from the slow-moving bus of television to the high-speed world of the racetrack is a fascinating metaphor for the varied lives the cast led once the music stopped. In 2026, at 65 and 66 years old respectively, both Jeremy and Brian stand as testaments to the fact that the Partridge legacy was a starting point for diverse, fulfilling journeys that the audience rarely got to see. The true revelation of the Partridge Family is that its importance lies not just in the catchy melodies or the bright costumes, but in the way it mirrored the complexities of real life through a lens of hope. It was a show about the collective effort required to make something beautiful, and the individual sacrifices made to keep the harmony intact. In the year 2026, we see the significance of this more clearly than ever. The show arrived at a time when the world was changing rapidly, offering a vision of togetherness that felt both aspirational and attainable. It taught us that family could be a professional unit, a creative force, and a source of unwavering support all at once. The essence of the report is this: The Partridge Family wasn't just a sitcom about a band, it was a chronicle of human connection. The actors we have discussed were the architects of that connection, building a world that felt real enough to inhabit for 30 minutes every week. Their stories, filled with both triumph and tragedy, remind us that the people behind the characters were navigating their own roads, often far more difficult than the ones the painted bus traveled. As we look back, the tension of their lived experiences adds a profound layer to the songs they sang, making the music feel more resilient and the laughter more precious. We have fully revealed the core of the show's heart, but the story is not yet complete. There are still many more faces who populated this world, each adding their own unique texture to the Partridge universe, and their contributions are what we will explore next, as we expand our gaze to the heroes and the guests who made the Partridge world feel truly alive. While the core family members carried the melody of the series, the world of the Partridge Family was populated by a vibrant cast of characters who provided the harmony, the rhythm, and the essential texture of reality that allowed the show to flourish. To understand the full scope of this television phenomenon in 2026, we must look toward those who entered the Partridge orbit, often bringing with them a wealth of experience from the golden age of Hollywood or a fresh energy that signaled the future of entertainment. Chief among these was the eldest daughter, Laurie Partridge, a character defined by her poise, intelligence, and unwavering backbone. Susan Dey was just 18 years old when she took on the role, and she immediately became the show's intellectual and moral compass. Laurie was often the one holding the siblings together when the pressures of fame and the noise of the world became too much to handle. Susan Dey's performance was vital because she made Laurie feel like a real young woman navigating the complexities of the 1970s with grace and standard. Her transition from the pop-colored world of the Partridges into the high-stakes drama of legal television in later years earned her massive critical acclaim, proving that her talent was as deep as it was versatile. In 2026, at 74 years old, Susan Dey has chosen a life of privacy over the constant visibility of the modern spotlight, a choice that only adds to the respect she commands as a legendary figure of the era. She remains a reminder that real character and substance can shine through even the most light-hearted sitcom. The show also served as a stage for seasoned veterans who brought a sense of continuity to the medium. Grandpa Fred Renfrew was brought to life by the unmistakable Ray Bolger, who was 66 at the time of his appearance. Bolger was a bridge to a bygone era of showmanship, having danced his way through vaudeville and into the hearts of millions as the Scarecrow in The Wizard of Oz. His presence on the Partridge bus was like seeing a piece of American show business history, smiling back at us, proof that joy and craft are timeless. He passed away on January 15, 1987, at the age of 83. But his brief time with the Partridges remains a cherished highlight of the series. Similarly, Rosemary DeCamp brought her signature maternal grace to the role of Grandma Amanda Renfrew. At 60 years old, she carried the weight of a long career that spanned from the golden age of film to the rise of television, providing a stable guiding presence that made the Partridge Family feel multi-generational and authentically grounded. She passed away at 90 in 2001, leaving behind a legacy of warmth that still lingers in the reruns we watch today. These actors didn't just play roles, they lent their professional dignity to the series, helping to elevate from a simple musical comedy to a respected piece of television history. The orbit of the family was further enriched by a rotating cast of professionals and guest stars who made the world around the band feel inhabited and real. Gordon Jump, who would later become a household name as Mr. Carlson on WKRP in Cincinnati, brought his dependable professionalism to the role of Albertson. Born in 1932, Jump was 38 when he appeared, providing a sense of adult authority that the show needed to balance its youthful energy. He was a familiar face that viewers instinctively trusted, reminding us that the business of a family band required interaction with the wider world. He passed away in 2003, but his contributions to the texture of the show remain invaluable. Then there was Alan Oppenheimer, who played Lorenzo Bernard with a charismatic ease that only a true craftsman could provide. In 2026, at the incredible age of 96, Oppenheimer stands as a testament to professional longevity. His career, which spanned decades and included a massive legacy in voice acting, began with these kinds of textured performances where he made every character feel like they had a full life off-screen. These are the actors who built the world the Partridges lived in, ensuring that the fantasy never felt hollow or disconnected from reality. Even the smaller, more transient roles left a lasting impact on the series and its audience. Gary Dubin, as the mischievous Punky Lazar, provided the youthful friction necessary for comedy, representing the outside influences that define adolescence. He built a solid resume across film and voice acting before his life was cut short by bone cancer in 2016 at the age of 57. His performance remains a vivid echo of the restless energy of youth captured on film. We also remember the late arrivals like Ricky Stevens, played by the then 4-year-old Rick Segal. He brought a genuine burst of childhood sweetness to the final seasons, reminding viewers that the Partridges were selling togetherness above all else. In 2026, at 57 years old, Segal's career has continued to evolve, and his time on the show stands as a bright epilogue to the family's televised journey. We see the same dedicated professionalism in the work of people like Mitzi Hoag as Miss Farrow and Joseph V. Perry as Mr. Jenkins. These were the actors who played the kind neighbors, the business figures, and the everyday people who made the sitcom world feel like a real neighborhood. Perry passed in 2000 and Hoag in 2019, yet their work continues to provide the gentle glow that defines the Partridge universe. As we look at the broader path of the news heroes of this era, we see lives defined by reinvention and resilience. Elaine Giftos, who played Bonnie Kleinschmidt, transitioned from acting into a career as a feng shui consultant, a move that perfectly mirrors the calm and balanced presence she brought to the screen. In 2026, at 81, she represents the many ways the cast members found peace after the spotlight dimmed. Bert Convey, who brought romance and polish to the role of Richard Lawrence, had a career that ranged from singing to hosting before his passing in 1991 at the age of 57. Yvonne Wilder turned a simple scene as a waitress into a memorable moment of humanity, living a long life in the industry until her passing in 2021 at 84. Even those like Martin Spear and Michael Rupert, who appeared in brief but essential roles, went on to build significant legacies in cult films and Broadway theatre, respectively. In 2026, these facts serve as a reminder that the Partridge Family was a launching pad for immense talent and a gathering place for dedicated professionals. The story of the show is not just about the family in the bus, it's about the entire community of artists who contributed their voices to the chorus. This expanded view reveals a network of lives that intersected for a brief, bright moment in time, creating a legacy of entertainment that continues to resonate across generations. As we prepare to conclude our look at this iconic family, we reflect on how these collective efforts turned a simple television concept into an enduring piece of cultural history. As we draw the curtains on this extensive journey through the lives and legacies of the Partridge Family, we find ourselves standing at a unique crossroads of history and nostalgia. In the year 2026, the distance between the present day and that vibrant, velvet-clad era of the early 1970s seems vast. Yet the emotional connection remains as tight as a well-tuned guitar string. The Partridge Family was more than a television show. It was a cultural promise. It promised that even in a world defined by rapid social change and the often frightening transition from one decade to the next, a family could remain a singular, unbreakable unit by simply raising their voices together. The image of the bus, with its Mondrian-inspired colors and its promise of a new adventure in every town, has become a symbol of a specifically American type of optimism. It represented the idea that we could take our home with us wherever we went, and that, as long as the music was playing, we would never truly be lost. Looking back now, we see that this optimism was not just a scriptwriter's trick, but a reflection of a collective desire for harmony that continues to resonate with audiences today. The longevity of the show's appeal in 2026 is a testament to the sheer professionalism and heart that every cast member, from the leads to the guest stars, poured into their work, Shirley Jones, at 92, remains the living embodiment of that era's grace. Her career, which began in the grandest cinematic musicals, found its most relatable and enduring home in the role of Shirley Partridge. She taught a generation that strength did not have to be loud to be effective, and that a mother's quiet authority was the most powerful force in any household. When we see her now, we are reminded of the value of consistency and the enduring power of kindness. Beside her, the legacy of David Cassidy continues to shine with a light that is both brilliant and haunting. He was the quintessential teen idol, a man whose face was plastered on millions of walls, yet whose personal struggle with the weight of that fame made him a deeply human figure. His passing in 2017 was a moment of profound realization for his fans. The realization that the youth he represented was as fragile as it was beautiful. In 2026, his performances are viewed with a new level of respect as we recognize the immense talent he brought to every melody, turning simple pop songs into anthems of a generation's longing and joy. We must also reflect on those who chose to walk away from the spotlight, finding their own versions of success far from the red carpets of Hollywood. Susan Dye's transition from the poise of Laurie Partridge to a respected dramatic actress, followed by her dignified retreat into a private life, serves as a powerful example of how to navigate fame on one's own terms. Similarly, the journeys of Brian Forster and Jeremy Gelbwaks remind us that there are many roads to travel once the bus has parked for the final time. Whether it was on a professional racetrack or in the quiet halls of technology and academia, these men proved that the Partridge identity was a foundation, not a cage. They carried the spirit of the show into their real lives, embodying the theme of constant movement and the pursuit of one's own path. Danny Bonaduce, too, showed us the power of resilience, turning the turbulence of child stardom into a second act defined by honesty and a relentless work ethic. These are the stories that make the Partridge Family legacy feel complete. The stories of real people who lived through the fantasy and emerged with their own truths. The significance of the supporting cast cannot be overstated as we conclude this report. Every neighbor, every manager, and every guest musician contributed to the sense that the Partridge world was a place where anyone could belong. The late Dave Madden, with his perfectly timed exasperation, gave the show its comedic backbone, while the appearances by legends like Ray Bolger and Rosemary DeCamp tied the series to the very roots of American entertainment history. We remember Suzanne Crowe not just as the little girl with the tambourine, but as a symbol of the childhood innocence that the show sought to protect. In 2026, these performers are more than just names in the credits. They are the guardians of our collective memory. Their work ensured that the show was not just a product of its time, but a timeless piece of art that could be handed down from parents to children, maintaining its warmth and its relevance even as the world transformed around it. As we look toward the future, the lessons of the Partridge Family remain as clear as the opening notes of their theme song. They taught us that while chaos is inevitable, harmony is a choice. They showed us that a family is not just defined by blood, but by the work they do together and the songs they sing for one another. In 2026, the music of the Partridges serves as a gentle reminder that there is still a place for sunshine in our lives, and that the simple act of togetherness is worth celebrating. The bus may have stopped rolling, and the stage lights may have dimmed, but the resonance of their voices continues to echo through the decades, providing a steady beat for all of us who are still trying to find our own rhythm in a noisy world. It is a legacy of laughter, of light, and of a persistent, rhythmic love that refuses to fade away. Ladies and gentlemen, thank you for joining us on this deep dive for classic Hollywood TV. The Partridge Family promised that family could turn chaos into harmony, and for a few bright years, they did exactly that. In 2026, some of these beloved performers are still with us, continuing to share their light, while others have already taken their final bow and moved into the realm of legend. But the music remains, preserved in the high-definition reruns, in the digital archives, and in the simple, enduring comfort of voices that once made the world feel a little bit lighter. Their story is a reminder that while time moves forward, the things that truly matter, family, music, and the memories we create together, stay exactly where they are, frozen in a beautiful, melodic glow. If this tribute brought you back to those sun-drenched afternoons and those catchy choruses, please like, subscribe, and tell us in the comments which Partridge will you always remember most. We value your memories as much as we value these stories. From all of us here